The wind screamed like a monster outside. Snow slammed against the broken windows of the crashed shuttle. Ethan wrapped his jacket tighter and looked through his cracked helmet visor. He was stuck. His communication was dead. His shuttle wouldn't fly, and the storm was only getting worse. He had planned a quick survey of the planet's surface. Instead, he had crash-landed during a freak snowburst. Now, he had only one sleeping bag, limited food, and freezing temperatures biting at his skin. He was about to return inside the wreckage when something moved in the snow. At first, he thought it was just wind blowing ice around. But then he saw it again closer, slower, dragging. A small figure collapsed near the edge of his shuttle. Cautiously, Ethan stepped out. Holding his blaster in one hand, the figure didn't move. He knelt beside it and gasped. It was a girl. But not human. Her skin was pale blue, lips turning purple. She wore thin alien fabric. Ripped and soaked in snow, her face was soft, delicate, and too young to be out here alone. Long silver-white hair clung to her frozen cheeks. Ethan touched her shoulder, and her eyes fluttered open, glowing faint blue. "Peas," she whispered. "It's cold." She passed out again. Ethan looked around, thinking quickly. He didn't know who she was or what species she belonged to, but she would die in minutes if left here. He dragged her inside the shuttle wreck. He cleared space near the warmest. Paneled an emergency heat core. It barely gave enough warmth for one person. He looked at the single sleeping bag, then back at her. Her body trembled. Arms pulled tightly to her chest. Ethan hesitated, then muttered, "You better not bite me." He opened the sleeping bag, slid himself in first, then gently pulled her body next to his. She was ice cold, barely breathing. Her head rested near his chest, and he felt her small frame shake. "Just try to stay alive," he whispered, unsure if she could hear him. Time passed slowly, outside. The storm roared louder, but inside the small shelter, something strange happened. As her body warmed, faint lines appeared on her arms, soft glowing symbols. Ethan noticed, but didn't touch them, afraid to trigger anything. Suddenly her eyes opened again, clearer this time. She looked around, confused, then focused on him. "You helped me," she said in a soft voice. Ethan nodded. "Yeah, wasn't gonna leave you out there." "I don't understand," she said. "Why would a human do that?" Ethan raised a brow. "Is that a trick question?" She gave a tiny laugh, but then winced in pain. He gently adjusted the sleeping bag, careful not to hurt her. "What's your name?" he asked. "Liari," she whispered from Telesor. Ethan frowned. "Never heard of it." She looked down, her voice lower. "Now most haven't. Not anymore." She was silent for a moment, then added, "They chased me. Across the stars I hid here, but I couldn't survive alone." Ethan didn't know what to say. He'd seen many refugees, but never someone this far from any known colony. "You're safe here," he said, unsure if that was true. Suddenly, his wrist beeped a warning. Signal. He tapped it, and a message popped up. Unusual energy detected nearby. Ethan looked at Liari, who seemed alarmed. "What is it?" he asked. She stared at him, her face pale. "You shouldn't have touched me." Before he could ask what she meant, her skin started to glow again, brighter, stronger. The strange symbols on her arms pulsed with energy. Ethan felt a sudden warmth in his chest, like fire blooming inside him. He gasped, clutching his side. "What? ... What is this?" Liari's eyes widened. "It's starting." The bond. Ethan stared at her, confused and afraid, but she closed her eyes and whispered, "Don't be afraid. You chose this. You shared your warmth." The shuttle creaked as snow piled on top of it. Outside, the storm screamed. Inside, a new storm had begun, one between two souls now linked in a way Ethan didn't yet understand. And the worst part? He had a feeling this was only the beginning. The storm outside still roared like a beast, but inside the shattered shuttle, the silence was strange. Ethan lay awake in the sleeping bag. Beside him, Liari's breathing had steadied. Her skin no longer felt icy, but warm, maybe too warm. She stirred, and the glowing marks on her arms flared softly. They looked like stars, tiny constellations across her skin. Ethan kept still, his heart racing. He had helped a stranger survive. But something inside him was changing. Suddenly, Liari opened her eyes, calm now, glowing with soft blue light. She looked straight at Ethan, her voice low. "It chose you," she said. Ethan frowned. "What chose me?" "The warmth," she whispered. "You shared it freely, without asking what I was." "I just didn't want you to die," Ethan replied. Confused, she nodded. "That's why it happened. The bond isn't made by force, only by choice." Before he could ask more, the symbols on her arms lit up brighter, and Ethan felt it like a second heartbeat inside his chest. He sat up quickly, gasping, "What the hell is this?" "It's not hurting you, is it?" she asked softly. He touched his chest, shocked. "It feels like someone else is inside me. You can feel me now," she said. "My fear, my breath, even my thoughts." Ethan stared at her in disbelief. He tried to calm down, but it felt like two minds were touching his and hers. "I didn't ask for this," he said, almost angry. "I didn't either," she replied quietly. In the cold, for a moment, neither of them spoke. Just the soft hum of the broken shuttle's heat core and the howling storm outside. Then Liari slowly sat up, and Ethan noticed something strange. Her back had faint ridges now, almost like wings folded beneath her skin. "What are you?" he asked carefully. "I'm Kalenborn," she said. "We were once protectors of dying worlds, but now we run." "From what?" Ethan asked. "From humans," she whispered. "Not all, but some, the ones who experiment, who break things they don't understand." Ethan was silent. He knew there were human labs that studied aliens in secret. He'd heard rumors, but nothing like this. "They wanted our gift," she said. "This connection you feel. Human scientists called it Simlink, but for us, sacred." Suddenly, the shuttle shook violently, dust fell from the ceiling, and Ethan grabbed his blaster. Was that an explosion? Liari's face went pale. "They're here." "Who?" Ethan stood up quickly. "They followed my signal," she said, panicked. "I didn't mean to, but when we bonded, the signal lit again." Ethan opened the hatch slightly and looked. Out into the blizzard, faint shadows moved in the snow tall, armored and inhumanly still. "Drones," Ethan whispered, "and they're scanning." Liari nodded. "If they find me, they'll take me." "And now they'll take me too," Ethan muttered, "because of this bond." Liari looked at him with guilt. "You can still run. They won't care about you if I go quietly." Ethan stared at her, then laughed once, bitterly. "You think I'd survive in this storm without that sleeping bag? Without you? We're stuck together now, alien girl." She looked away, ashamed. But Ethan grabbed his pack and handed her a small energy bar. "You'll need strength. If we're going to move, it's now or never." Liar took it with trembling hands, surprised. "You're still helping me," she said softly. "I'm human," Ethan replied. "That's what we do, at least the good ones." The two of them slipped out of the wreckage into the cold. The storm was starting to clear, but something worse waited beyond the snow. Shlai touched Ethan's hand gently, and he felt her pulse. Inside his mind, "We're not just running now," she said. "We're waking something ancient." And Ethan, even though he didn't understand yet, believed her. Because for the first time, the storm outside felt smaller than the storm within. Ethan's boots crunched over frozen gravel as he and Liari moved through the icy wasteland. The wind had quieted now, but the air still held its deadly bite behind them. The crashed shuttle vanished into the snow, swallowed like it had never existed. They were alone, and hunted. Yet Ethan didn't feel truly alone anymore inside him. Something had changed. He felt it every time Liari stumbled, and he instinctively reached for her before she even asked. He felt it when her fear flashed through his own heart like a cold knife. It was no longer just her pain, it was his too. "This bond thing," Ethan said, walking carefully down a slope. "How long does it last?" Liari didn't answer right away. She looked at the snowy horizon, eyes distant. "For life," she finally said. Ethan stopped, stunned. "For life." "Yes," she said softly. "Unless one of us dies." Ethan gave a long, slow breath. "Well, that's comforting," he muttered. "You really should have led with that." "I didn't mean for it to happen," she whispered, "but it chose you. We chose each other without knowing." Suddenly, Ethan froze. His head buzzed like electricity crackling under his skin. He staggered, grabbing a rock wall for balance. Liari rushed to him. "It's starting," she said. "You need to let it in." "Let what in?" Ethan gasped. "The memory, the ancient spark," she said, placing her hand on his chest, and then it hit a wave of images, sounds, voices, not his own. He saw a world with twin suns, creatures with wings of crystal. He saw war fires raining. From the skies, metal ships falling into oceans. A voice echoed in his mind, old and powerful. "You carry the seed of Kalen, the last protector." Ethan stumbled backward, falling to his knees. "What? Was that?" he whispered, shivering. Liari looked at him with awe. "You saw them," she said. "My ancestors." "Your ancestors now, too?" He shook his head, trying to breathe. "No, I'm not one of you," he said. "I'm just a guy with a broken ship. And a blaster." "But the bond doesn't lie," Liari said, kneeling beside him. "You were chosen because something inside you matches us heart, soul, will." Ethan looked at his hand. His veins glowed faint blue, pulsing with the same. Light as Liari's symbols, he touched the snow, and it melted beneath his fingers. "I don't want this," he said, voice breaking. "I didn't ask to be part of some ancient prophecy." Liari touched his shoulder gently. "I didn't want to lose my family," she whispered, "but here we are." They sat in silence. For a long moment, only the quiet wind and the falling snow surrounded them. Then, a sharp buzz hit Ethan's ears. Liari screamed and fell to the ground, her body glowing bright white. "Liari!" Ethan shouted, grabbing her, her body arched. In pain, her hands gripping the snow. It's sinking," she gasped. "The full bond, it's too fast." Ethan didn't know what to do. He held her close, their foreheads touching. "Take it slow," he whispered. "You're not alone." As he said those words, his heart slowed. And so did hers. Their breathing matched, their fear began to fade, and then their minds touched, fully, completely. Ethan wasn't just seeing memories now, he was living them. He stood in Liari's place. A young girl escaping through glass tunnels as alarms blared. He felt her loneliness, her hunger, the cold nights. Hidden in abandoned spaceports, and her final memory before meeting him, collapsing in the snow. Ready to die? Whispering, "Please? Just let it end." Back in the real world, tears slid down Ethan's cheeks. "You were so alone," he whispered. Liari opened her eyes slowly, "But not anymore," she said, and smiled. The bond had awakened. It wasn't just survival now. It was connection, purpose, and maybe destiny. But deep in the snowfields, scanners lit up. The ones hunting Liari had found the pulse. They were coming, and they had no idea that the human they were chasing was no longer just human anymore. Asterisk, the bond had awakened, but peace did not come. Liari and Ethan walked quietly through a narrow, frozen canyon. Each step echoed like a warning. Ethan kept his blaster ready. His other hand clutched a small tracker. Blinking with faint red light, "We have to move faster," Liari whispered. Glancing behind them, Ethan nodded. "They're closing in," he said. "I can feel it. Like shadows crawling on my spine." She looked at him with worry. "That's not fear. It's the bond warning you." Ethan tightened his grip on the blaster. "I liked it better when it just gave me warmth." The canyon opened into a flat, icy field far in the distance. Broken towers rose from the snow ruins of an old mining station. There, Liari pointed. "We can hide inside." But before they could move, Ethan froze. His heart skipped a beat down. He shouted, pulling Liari behind a rock. Just in time, a laser beam sizzled past them. Cutting through the snow like lightning, from the shadows came black, insect-like machines, tall, armored, silent. With glowing red eyes, hunters. Liari whispered, trembling. Ethan looked at them, calculating, are they machines or alive? "Both," she said. "They feel pain, but they don't stop. Not until the bonded are dead." One of the hunters stepped forward, scanning the ice. "They have your scent," Ethan said. "Can't outrun them." Liari closed her eyes and placed 2 fingers to Ethan's chest. "Then we hide." Right. The inside. Suddenly, Ethan's vision blurred. His body shimmered and bent like light through water. He gasped and looked at his hand. It was turning invisible. He looked at Liarishi, who was already gone. Not physically, but hidden. They weren't. Invisible to the eye. They were invisible to the mind, a mental cloaking field, powered by the bond. The hunters passed by them, scanning with red beams. One paused near Ethan. For a second it tilted its head like it sensed something. Ethan held his breath, heart pounding. Liari's voice echoed in his mind. Don't think, don't move, don't fear. The hunter turned and walked away. When they were finally alone again, Ethan exhaled sharply. I never want to do that again, he said, wiping sweat from his brow. Liari looked drained, her glow dimmer than before. It costs energy, she said, too much. If we keep using it. They reached the mining station just before sunset. The broken steel doors creaked open, revealing a dark, empty hall. Old machines stood rusting in the corners. The floor was littered with frozen tools Ethan found. A room deeper inside, sealed from wind, he dropped his pack and helped Liari sit. She looked pale, now barely holding herself up. You okay? He asked. She nodded slowly. I just need rest. Ethan placed his jacket over her, then turned toward the wall, staring at nothing, lost in thought. He had signed up for a salvage mission. Now, he was bonded to an alien girl being hunted by creatures from a forgotten war. He didn't ask for this, but deep down, he knew this was exactly where he was meant to be. Suddenly, a screen in the room flickered to life. Lines of alien code scrolled fast, then stopped. One word flashed. In red, Link established. Liari gasped. No. It's too soon. Ethan turned to her. What is it? Looked at him with fear in her eyes. The bond. It's waking something inside this place. Something old. The walls began to hum softly. Metal panels lit up with pale blue light. Ethan stepped back as the ground beneath them vibrated. A deep voice echoed through the room. Mechanical, ancient guardian recognized. Kalen blood confirmed. Ethan looked at Liari in shock. What the hell is a guardian? Liari was already trembling. It's you, she said. The bond didn't just choose you to save me. It chose you to awaken this, and far beneath the mining station, something massive stirred. Something that had been sleeping for centuries now. It was awake, and it remembered the war. The station above had gone silent, but below it, something had awakened. Ethan followed Liari down an ancient shaft lit by glowing veins in the ice. The walls were smooth, almost like they had been melted long ago by hands, not heat, strange. Symbols pulsed faintly with each of Ethan's steps. They responded to him, not Liari. I think this place knows me, he whispered. Liari nodded, her face pale. This is a Kalen vault, she said. Built before humans ever walked on Earth, Ethan laughed nervously. Well, that's comforting. I guess I'm older than I thought. They entered a chamber the size of a stadium. Carved into the glacier itself, pillars of crystal rose from the floor, like teeth. And the air smelled of static and memory. In the center was a strange structure, part throne, part machine, covered in frost and silence. This is the heart of it, Liari said. Where Kalen warriors left their final thoughts. Ethan stepped forward, drawn like a magnet. He touched the throne's edge, and suddenly his mind exploded with visions. Flashes of forgotten battles, alien skies on fire, Kalen soldiers, falling one by one, a promise whispered into time. One day, a human will return the light to us. Ethan stumbled back, panting. I saw everything, he said. They knew this would happen. Liari's voice shook. That's why they allowed the bond with a human, but before they could say more, a hiss echoed through the cave. Ethan spun around, blaster ready. Shapes moved in the dark, cloaked in shadow. We were followed, Liari whispered. Pulling him behind a crystal pillar, the hunters had arrived, but this time, they didn't come in alone. Something else moved with them, larger, heavier, a creature of metal and skin. Chained at the back of the hunter squad, its red eyes glowed like lava, and every breath it took melted snow. That's not a hunter, Ethan said. That's a weapon. Audrey's eyes widened in horror. They brought a soul eater, Ethan didn't like the name already. "What does it do?" he asked, loading his blaster. "It drinks the bond," she whispered, "consumes linked beings to feed itself. It kills not with teeth, but by severing hearts." The cave trembled as it moved closer, sniffing the air, and then it turned straight toward them. Ethan pulled Liari back, running between crystal pillars. "Split up," he said. "I'll draw it away." "No," she shouted, grabbing his arm. "If we split, the bond will weaken. You'll be vulnerable." "Then we fight together," he said, and smiled, just like a proper married couple. Liari rolled her eyes but smiled faintly. They took position. Behind a fallen column, Ethan whispered, "What's the plan?" Liar looked at the ceiling and pointed. "There," she said. "See the frozen beams above? If we can break them, the ice will collapse." Ethan aimed his blaster, took a breath, and fired. The beam cracked, but it wasn't enough. Then suddenly, Laurie raised her hands. Blue energy surged from her palms into the ice. The Soul Eater let out a deep, furious growl and charged toward them. Just as it reached the throne crack, the ceiling above exploded. Tons of ice crashed down, burying the throne, the Soul Eater, and the entire squad beneath a blinding cloud of snow and shards. Silence followed, then the soft sound of Ethan coughing. He stood up, shaking snow off. "Remind me never to let you near the ceiling again," he muttered. Liari laughed weakly. "We bought time, but they'll send more." Ethan looked at the half-buried throne. "We need to activate whatever this place is hiding before they do." As if in answer, the throne pulsed again, this time. Its frozen top cracked hand inside was a core of glowing metal. With a human handprint glowing on its surface, Ethan stepped closer, heart pounding. He didn't understand why it had to be him. He didn't want this destiny, this war, this bond. But Liari's hand slipped into his, and he knew he wasn't alone. "I'm scared," he whispered. She squeezed his hand gently. "Me too." He placed his hand on the core, and the cave exploded in light. The cave was no longer just a cave. It had become a heart beating, glowing, alive, and Ethan stood at its center. His hand on the ancient Kalan core, light wrapped around him like a second skin. Liari shielded her eyes as symbols lit the air, floating glyphs written in no known language. But Ethan, he could read them. They weren't just symbols, they were memories. Living pieces of history carved into light. He saw a battle where Kalan warriors sacrificed themselves to stop the Soul Eaters. He saw a young girl like Liari watching her parents vanish into blue fire. He saw a human face, his own, glowing in a vision made centuries before he was born. When Ethan finally pulled his hand away, he collapsed to his knees, gasping. Liari rushed to him. "What did you see?" she asked, afraid of the answer. "They made this," he whispered, "this vault. For me?" Liari froze. "You mean for the next bonded guardian?" "No," he said firmly, looking her in the eyes. "They said my name." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Liari whispered, "But how?" Humans weren't even part of the galaxy back then. Ethan looked at his trembling hands. "Someone sent me here," he said. "Long before I was born." Suddenly, a sharp pain struck Ethan's head. He fell back, groaning, as more visions forced their way in. A voice echoed, "Trust will bind you, but betrayal will test your flame." Liari held him, scared. She could feel it too through the bond. His pain was hers. She placed her palm on his chest and whispered an ancient Kalan phrase. His breathing slowed. The visions faded. "You saved me again," he said weakly. She smiled softly. "That's what bonded do." But just as they caught their breath, the floor beneath them trembled, and the wall at the edge of the vault slid open, revealing a long spiral tunnel. "Leading down, we have to go," Liari said. "The signal from the vault has gone galaxy-wide." "They'll all know now," Ethan whispered. "Everyone hunting you." "They'll come for me too," she nodded. "That's why we must find the archive." Ethan stood. "What's the archive?" Liari looked down the glowing tunnel, the place where truth was hidden, Kalan's secrets, lost weapons, and maybe even a way to end this war. They began walking into the tunnel. As they moved deeper, Ethan noticed the walls shifting, showing moving images. Like dreams on glass, he saw flashes of himself as a child on Earth, riding a bike, staring at stars, looking up at the moon. "These are my memories," he whispered, shocked how. "The bond connects past and future," Liari said. "Even time obeys its pull." Suddenly, one wall turned dark. It showed Earth burning, ships crashing, people running. Ethan stopped, frozen. "That hasn't happened," he said, voice shaking. Liari touched the wall. "It's a warning," she whispered. "If the Soul Eaters find the archive before we do, your world will be next." A deep silence followed. Only the hum of the tunnel and the fear in their hearts remained. As they walked, Liari grew weaker. The power she used to protect Ethan and awaken the vault had drained her. Her legs trembled, and she fell. Ethan caught her in his arms. "Hey, stay with me. I just need a little rest," she said, her voice fading. He looked around, then noticed a small chamber off to the side. Inside was a strange podcalan, Texoff lights blinking slowly. Ethan lifted Liari and gently placed her into the pod. It hummed and began healing her, scanning her body and stabilizing her energy. "Sleep," he whispered. Just for a while, as the pod sealed, he sat beside it, blaster in hand, waiting in the quiet. Surrounded by memories of stars, and then a voice echoed from the tunnel ahead. A human voice, but it didn't belong to Ethan. "Welcome, Guardian," it said. "We've been waiting a long time for you." The chamber pulsed with soft blue light. Ethan sat beside the healing pod, where Liari rested inside, still and glowing faintly. Her face was peaceful, but her breath was shallow. He pressed a hand to the glass, whispering, "Please don't leave me," the voice returned, calm but inhuman. "She gave you her strength, Guardian. Now you must decide what to do with it." Ethan stood slowly, blaster holstered. He walked down the curved tunnel ahead, toward the source of the voice. At the end, the tunnel opened into a vast hollow dome. The archive inside were floating crystals, spinning slowly in the air. Its one glowing with a memory. There were thousands Kalan secrets. Technologies, voices, laughter, death, everything they ever were, stored here, hidden from the galaxy. At the center of the dome stood a figure, tall, cloaked in white, with no face, just a smooth, reflective mask. Ethan raised his blaster. "What are you?" The figure didn't move. "I am a remnant," it said, "built by Kalan minds, left behind to test you, test me." Ethan asked. "Yes," the remnant replied. "You carry the bond, but are you worthy of the archive?" Ethan frowned. "I didn't ask to be chosen." "Exactly," the remnant said. "That's why you were." Suddenly, the dome-shuttered alarms rang out. One of the crystals flared red. Liari's pod in the other room had triggered a breach. She was waking up, but something was wrong. Ethan ran back to her, heart pounding. The pod was open. Liari had fallen to the floor, her body glowing too brightly. She looked at him with pain in her eyes. "They're here," she said. "The Soul Eaters." One of them followed us. From the shadows of the healing chamber, a shape emerged. Twisted metal wrapped in flesh, covered in red light and scars. Its face was blank, but it carried something worse than hatred, hunger. It reached toward Liar. Ethan stepped between them and fired.
Ow.
Blaster shots struck the monster's chest, but it didn't stop. Liari pulled herself up. "Ethan," she whispered, "there's only one way." He looked at her, eyes wild. "What way?" She held out her hand. "If we complete the bond, fully our energy will become flame." Ethan hesitated. "Will it kill us?" She nodded, tears forming. "But it will also erase the Soul Eaters. All of them, forever," the monster roared. And charged forward. Ethan looked into her glowing blue eyes and nodded. "Then let's burn." He grabbed her hand, and the bond ignited. Their bodies lifted into the air, wrapped in spirals of light and memory. All around them, the archive shimmered. The crystals turned gold, one by one. The Soul Eater screamed, but the light consumed it, not fire. Not heat, truth, and it could not survive the truth in the heart of the archive. Two lights became one. The glow filled the planet. shot into the sky, spread across stars, and then silence. Just snow falling again, outside the frozen surface. Time passed. No one knows how long, but deep beneath the ice, in the ruins of the archive, a crystal pulsed once, inside it. A memory, Ethan and Lyari, smiling, holding hands. Alive in the light, gone from the world, but never truly gone, and somewhere far away. On a distant human colony, a baby was born, eyes glowing faint blue, and when she opened her mouth, she whispered a name no one had taught her, Lyari.